Good evening. This is to review sort of what's expected for project course introduction, the readings and annotated bibliography. So if I were a student who is approaching this assignment, the first thing that I'm going to do is to review what exactly was laid out for me. So it says for each module, I'm required to thoroughly read the assigned text, and based on deep reading and note-taking, I'll complete an analytical annotated bibliography. I think this is the part where people are like, what? And so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 listings that I'm supposed to read. So I'm going to have read each of these, but I only have to do 6 entries for my annotated bibliography. And so I might choose the first 6 because that's just the type of person that I am. And so I'd choose the first 6, and each would have its own separate entry. But these would all be in one document. That's a question that I received often. Well, how many documents should I submit? One document, 6 separate entries. And so it says that it should be in either MLA or APA citation. That should be a part of my annotated bibliography entry. So I choose MLA if I'm familiar with it, and if I'm going into the humanities or arts based program. I would choose APA if I were doing math, science, engineering, nursing. Usually one of the sciences, social sciences. History uses APA as well. So whichever format you're most comfortable with and the format that you will probably use in the future, so outside of your English classes. The second thing it says is that I should have a summary, a clear disclosure of the text purpose, primary audience, genre, and primary claim, including at least 3 ways in which the author supports the thesis statement. And so I know that I should be looking for a minimum of 3 main points. That I'm going to explain the writer's ethos or authority on the subject, what and from where does the author's position, perspectives, and research sources information come. And then I'm going to have analysis, application, as well as application. And we'll go through each of these steps. So my instructor has outlined all of this, but I'm still like, I don't really get what I'm supposed to be doing. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually read. I'm going to use in this video something that we were all required to read and that we've all already read, so it's familiar to you. And I'll show you sort of the notes that I took on this document, and I did do it as an electronic resource. I did not print anything to take these notes. So I'm going to find my document that I have my annotations, and I saved mine to my Google Drive, and you can see this is it because it has the annotations. I've already opened it here for the ease of our use. And so I'm looking at it and I say, okay, here are the things that I found to be interesting, of thought, of note, and you'll actually see this document with all of my annotations in a PDF in course documents with this video. So we'll go through, and the reason these notes are important is because when I go back to write my annotated bibliography entry, I don't have to remember all of the things I've read because I've sort of run like a commentary along the sides, which will bring out the things that I thought were most important, the things that I thought were interesting, significant to the point of the article. So I have some highlights here, and I have notes that go along with specific places in the text. So one of my first thoughts was, are all things about money? This may be true or not. We'll see later. And we have to remember that we read only the first 3 pages, which was the summary of the text, not the entire text. And then I ask, how are they using this word? And it looks like I'm referring to the word magnitudes here. Why would it not benefit the argument? So I'm looking at the public policy debates about post-secondary education frequently omit more than half the story. So I question, why would it not benefit the argument? And probably I'm referring to the argument of why college or post-secondary education is important. And so then we'd have to think about who are the stakeholders in this. Wow, earning 32,000 more than high school grads yearly. That's pretty significant. So you can see that all along the text that I have notes, questions, ideas, things that sort of stood out to me. And so it's important that as you're reading these entries that you do that without taking notes. They're all going to read or seem to be so similar. You're not going to be able to catch on to what the differences or the reasons why these were actually assigned to you, what's significant to you. We need to be able to see why we are reading each of these entries. How will they push us to having a particular foundation that's useful to what we need to know or learn for these assignments and those that will come ahead? You'll see that what we're reading now should be helpful to you as you embark on Project 1. So again, you'll be able to find the notes, everything that I notated. Your notes may be totally different from mine, and that's okay, as long as you're reading and deeply reading, looking for what's important. But you'll be able to find all of this in course documents. So my next step is, after I've read all of my 8 articles, selected 6 that I've taken really, really good notes on, the main purpose, what are my reactions to the text, what's significant, how could I use this later, I'm going to go look in the library homepage. So here I am at the library homepage. And why am I here? Because maybe, the instructor put some notes about what should be a part of my annotation, but I'm still a little confused. So I'm going to look. I could Google annotated bibliography, but I think my school library, Thomas Nelson, could be helpful to me. So I'm at libguides.tncc.edu homepage, and I'm going to look for research guides. So I click Research Guides. And the first thing, Popular Guides, Citation Guide. Wow, that's kind of what I have to do. I know the first part of my annotated bibliography is a citation, or I could choose from here, Citation Guide, but it's one of the popular guides. So I'm going to click it, and it opened a new page for me. And so it tells me about getting started, and it talks about why we cite sources, quoting, paraphrasing, copying, pasting, and referencing. But that's not really what I need right now. So I'm going to go look for online citation resources, because right now we don't have a specific textbook, and many of the formatting and style guides that we need, there are resources available online for us. So we have OWL, which many of us are familiar with probably. So I'm going to open that in a new tab. But then it says MLA 8th edition. And if you're using MLA, you should be using the 8th edition, the guide to using MLA 8 for EasyBib, from EasyBib. So I'm going to open that as well. And so if I were doing APA, I would go down and click APA. We have OWL. It says an excellent introduction to APA citation format. Examples from UNC Charlotte, and so on. So if I were to start with Purdue OWL, and it shows me all along the side what I'm supposed to be doing, or sources for me to use specifically for MLA 8 citations. But again, I'm still a little like, I don't know what's supposed to go in an annotated bibliography. So I'm going to go back to my online citation guide from Thomas Nelson and click Annotated Bibliographies. So it says these are intended to be guidelines, but always consult with your professor. And many of you have done that, and I appreciate it. And so it says an annotated bibliography is a bibliography that also includes a paragraph following each citation that summarizes or evaluates the source being cited. So what the heck is a bibliography then? Usually a bibliography is defined as a source that one accesses for reference, but they don't cite it in any particular way. So we're not using any information from the source in a document to paraphrase, quote, directly quote, or summarize that text. And this is exactly what we were doing. So it would literally be just a list of the citations of the sources that we would use. But an annotated bibliography has a paragraph following that citation. And so it says the primary purpose of a works cited page or reference is to list all of these things. But then there are two common types of annotated bibliographies or annotations, descriptive and critical. And you'll find that I'm asking you to do a mix of both. So a descriptive annotation requests the main purpose or idea of the work, the contents of the work, and what the author's conclusions are. The intended audience, the author's research methods, and special features of the work. And so you'll see that in our text, in our guideline, I ask you for all of those things. But then I ask you also for a critical annotation. We may talk about the importance of the work, the author's bias or tone. This is where we're analyzing how or why it's significant. The author's qualifications for writing the work. And so if you remember, it says we should question the writer's ethos or credibility. What is it that we know about the author that would be helpful to understand why they're writing what they're writing? Limitations or significant omissions, the contribution to the literature of the subject, comparison with other works. And so these are the things we're writing a descriptive but also critical annotation for each of our sources. Why is this annotated bibliography significant? Because when you go back and you're looking at your projects and you're saying, oh, this source talked about this. Well, what specifically did it talk about? And you can go back and say, oh, this one talked about the importance of citing, or this one talked about how college was significant to people in the 21st century, or this one talked about the function of rhetoric in digital communication, and here are the things that they said were important. And so instead of having to go back and read it all over again, you have a quick reference guide that you wrote that is both descriptive and critical or analytical to reference. So this is just as much for you as it is for me to say, oh, you did some work, and for you to share with your other peers. Okay, so that's where I would go. And then, so I might choose to look through the Purdue OWL text, and that's fine. But I might also use EasyBib, which I'll tell you why it's significant in a moment. I'll also show you on the side, under our research guides, here's some other tools for annotated bibliography, and you'll see some of these pop up in some of our readings. But I'm going back to the online citations resources guide. And there's Noodle Tools Express and Night Site Citation Service. And so these are tools that will generate for us the citation, but we need more than the citation, which is why I use EasyBib. So here I'm going to stop at EasyBib, generate another video to show you how I will generate my citation and annotation based on our article that we read for our short writing assignment or independent writing assignment. It's not just the money, the benefits of college education to individuals and to society. So you will find this in a second video that is attached below.